Do you ever leave school feeling completely drained and your first thought is, I am burnt out? What if I told you it may not be burnout at all? It could be overstimulation. Think about it: constant noise, bright lights, endless movement, and not a single quiet moment for your brain to reset. Today, I'm going to share three practical strategies you can use to minimize overstimulation both in and out of the classroom, so you can protect your energy without feeling like leaving the profession is your only solution. Teaching is naturally stimulating. You've got kids talking, papers shuffling, pencils tapping, bells ringing, emails coming in, announcements over the intercom. It is literally sensory overload. And while burnout is very real, sometimes what we're calling burnout is actually our nervous system in need of less input. But here's the good news: overstimulation can be managed. You just need systems and habits that create breathing room for your brain. So let's talk about it. One of the biggest sources of overstimulation is your classroom itself. While you can't remove every source of stimulation, you can set intentional rhythms that give both you and your students the space needed to reset. One of my favorite ways to do this is through journal writing, paired with soft music and a timer. This happens within the first 5 to 7 minutes of class. This not only creates a moment for my students to settle down, but it also gives me a moment of regulation. Another piece is your visual environment. Classrooms can feel overwhelming when every inch of your wall space is covered. Try simplifying what's on display. I know it is so tempting to put up all of the colorful curriculum themed posters that match your classroom decor, but even if the materials are relevant, hold off until you actually introduce the skill. This keeps the room from looking cluttered, reduces sensory overload, and ensures that what is posted has a clear purpose. Rotate anchor charts and seasonal work instead of displaying everything at once. A visually calmer space creates a calmer student and teacher. Now let's talk about noise management. Small adjustments like adding rugs, curtains, or tennis balls on chair legs can make a big difference in absorbing sound. Set clear expectations for voice levels, such as using a whisper voice during partner work or a talking voice versus shouting voice for whole group responses. And remember, model everything you expect. Also, be mindful of how we as teachers sometimes contribute to the noise. When we become overstimulated or dysregulated, it's easy for us to react rather than respond. Instead of raising your voice to gain attention, try using calm chimes, a soft call and response, or nonverbal cues. So here's a quick story time. When I started my career as a pre-K teacher, I had a very bad habit of elevating my voice to gain attention. During one of my check-ins with my mentor teacher, she pointed this out and suggested an alternative. She shared with me that in order for her to gain the attention of her students, she sings. That small shift helps her to maintain her calm, and it helped her students to regulate their own energy. Now, she wasn't suggesting that I start singing also. Her point was simply that I needed a different method rather than raising my voice, which she was absolutely right to bring up. But needless to say, I did try it and I have been singing ever since. Now, don't get me wrong, I am not a great singer, but it's something about pairing lyrics with a familiar tune that just works. When students get loud, I try my very best to get low. I'm not perfect at it, but I have seen the difference. If only a few students notice that I have repositioned myself and it's time to regroup, I'll use my quiet voice to acknowledge and thank the ones that are ready to move on. That subtle recognition brings the rest of the class back together without me having to elevate my voice. Classroom management tools like apps, chimes, and soft buzzers work too. Because ultimately the goal is simple. Don't contribute to the noise with strategies that increase it. Model the type of calm, regulated energy that you want your students to mirror. When you lead with calm, they follow your rhythm. Next, let's talk about you during the school day. I can remember a time when I would power straight through my workday. Not only did that leave me physically and mentally depleted, it also added to my sensory overload. So I started to do these things instead. At lunch, I resist the urge to multitask or sit in another noisy environment. Instead, I create a mini reset by simply sitting in my classroom with the lights dim, enjoying my lunch to soft music. You can also try something like maybe taking a quick walk or even just closing your eyes for a few minutes. Now, don't forget to set your timer because I don't want you falling asleep and then blaming me for sleeping on the job. So, I've also added small sensory breaks throughout my day. Something simple as drinking water slowly, or using an essential oil diffuser in the classroom, or simply just breathing techniques like box breathing. These micro resets give your nervous system space to come down from constant stimulation, which makes you more patient, more focused, and less reactive with your students. Finally, overstimulation doesn't end when you leave school. If you're anything like me, you simply take off one hat just to put on another one, and your brain never really gets the break that it needs. Instead, set an evening downshift routine. Realistically, that might look like you riding home with the radio off, practicing on some deep breathing. Or when you get home, instead of scrolling endlessly on your phone, maybe pick up a good book and get a cup or glass of your favorite beverage and just simply unwind. Or even catching up on your favorite TV show just to check out for a moment mentally. Overstimulated brains struggle to power down, but small tweaks to your nighttime habits can make a huge difference. So here's the takeaway. What you're feeling may not be burnout, it could be overstimulation, and that's actually helpful because that means that there are steps that you can take to protect your energy. Start small with our 3 steps that we covered. Number 1, building calming systems inside of your classroom. Number 2, protect your midday reset. And number 3, create out of school habits that give your brain real downtime. When you recognize overstimulation for what it is, you stop blaming yourself and your environment for feeling burnt out. And instead, you start building rhythms that keep you steady and strong. If this resonated with you, hit the subscribe button and follow for more. Tell me in the comments below which one of these 3 strategies you can see yourself implementing to help you preserve your energy. And until next time, reflect with clarity and teach with intention.